So this is the final slide from me, and this is just a little bit about etiquette and expectations. So the first one is please be patient with us. We're a fairly small organisation, even though we're putting on this big conference. And apologies if there is a little bit of messiness with the transition, etc. But we aren't a hugely professional outreach. We are a small organisation of careers professionals, and we do our best preparing ourselves for the future. Just to let you know, the session has just started recording. It is being recorded, so please do bear that in mind. And the recording will also be uploaded to our website. So it's there for you to look at again. Perhaps you want to refer other members of staff in your organisation to it. Perhaps you've got a colleague in another school who hasn't been able to be here today. Please do send them the link or let them know that they can access a recording on our website. The next thing is about participation. I have said it, but please do use the chat. Any training session or conference is so much more effective and wonderful if people contribute. So please do put those questions in the chat. Janet Hutchinson, who's going to be taking you through the conference, is going to be monitoring that chat, and she's going to be looking at some of the broader themes and questions in order to bring to the panel at the end of the morning. So please do put information in there, network with one another. It's a shame that conferences are no longer face-to-face, but we hope it won't stop people networking with one another. And then finally, we've got the Twitter handle there. Please do tweet about this conference and let other people know it's going on, and let other people know what you think of it. We hope that those thoughts are very positive. Okay, with no more further ado, I'll hand you over to John Ambrose, our director, who's going to take you through the next part of the conference. I hope you have a really wonderful and informative morning.
Lovely. Thank you, Jenny. And thanks for that great introduction. So will be a time where I can start a talk without asking if you can see my slides, but that won't be today, I'm afraid. So if I can just, somebody shout out if you can't, that'll be really helpful. So, but what I'm just going to be doing over the next 15, 20 minutes then is helping you to kind of set the scene for the conference. So my talk is going to be around hot topics for the future of career development, helping us to be able to think about all these fascinating, scary, challenging, exciting aspects that a great range of speakers are going to be taking us through today, and trying to help us to thread it together out, well, what's it mean for the careers sector, and what's it mean for you in particular, and mainly for your learners. So specifically, I'm going to be introducing the conference theme. I'm going to be highlighting the challenge and what we can do to support learners to navigate their future, and hopefully be helping you as career leaders or career practitioners to recognise that arguably, or at least I believe certainly, that career development is now becoming more important than ever before to be able to help people make sense of their working lives and navigate through it. So that's what I want to be doing before I hand over to some excellent speakers today. Get us started, I want to look at a slide around the fifth industrial revolution. So there are various different versions of this particular slide, or people will say about it starts or finishes at a different time. But what I'm really interested in here is about, well, there are now, we're up to a fifth industrial revolution. You look at the gaps between the first and second, and they're what's about a century apart, kind of thing. But now a number of us might have experienced 3 industrial revolutions within our working lifetime, kind of thing. So that's quite interesting. So the gap's getting a lot smaller. And what we're doing now is we're looking at a new era, which has got technology. We've got the AI, and we'll be learning more about this with Deirdre's talk later on today. But starting to think about, well, how do we kind of work together? How do we integrate with technology? But also, as people, we're talking, the fifth industrial revolution is more about well-being. It's more about support, agility, flexibility, but also that to the planet as well. So this is where it's brilliant that we've got speakers from the Institute of Environmental Management and Assessment and the CEC to talk to us about, well, green careers, green skills and stuff, and making sure that we're addressing the climate emergency as we develop into this revolution. So it's more about purposeful aspects as well, a purposeful economy that isn't just about profit anymore. It's more about purpose and values. And what I want to do right from the start today is to ask you a question and ask you to consider this question throughout the whole day as we listen to those particular, exciting speakers throughout the day. And that's, how do we prepare learners for an uncertain future with a constantly evolving world of work? So I'll just leave that with you for a moment. Do feel free to jot it down, and you can, share any notes that you might have throughout the day and pass those on to in the chat. You can put some initial thoughts in the chat right now if you have them, or you can use this as a bit of a reminder when you're looking at your careers program or your careers provision to think, well, what are we doing? Are we doing enough at the moment? To be able to support our learners to prepare for that uncertain world. What I want to do is I want to start by exploring where I think we're up to right now within the careers sector, to be able to pull these parts together of the presentation as we navigate into the 5th industrial revolution, to think about, well, how can we make the most of this and support our learners as best as we can. I want to start by introducing a report that I remember reading just over 10 years ago now, and that's employers are from Mars, young people are from Venus. It was from the Chartered Institute of Personnel and Development, and it was really starting to highlight that mismatch there is really between the aspirations of learners and the needs of industry, and also about readiness for career opportunities. And I think that's really interesting to pause on now. So this was at the time at the last industrial revolution, but as we're entering into the 5th one and navigating through that, we've got a number of different local skills improvement plans that have been operating across the country. All of those summarising the needs from businesses, which help us to understand that there's still a lot of this aspect that we need to challenge and need to improve on. And that's, things like essential skills, employability skills, career readiness seems to be highly topical at the moment to be able to look at enablers throughout this particular challenge. So I think partly what I'm saying here is in this slide is that, we are 10, 11 years down the line, but arguably I think we still have as much to do, if not perhaps more so, to be able to make sure that we're meeting the needs of our learners adequately. So again, it's about looking at responsibility for this too. So part of this is about, this is a slide that I adapted from Statista 2022. And the two things really I wanted to glean from this is, one, that we do have 5 generations in the workforce now. There are lots of different variations to this. But what we'll see really is that the workplace is becoming more agile, more versatile, more flexible, as we've got different generations that navigate within it. We've got a generation as people live older and also work longer as part of their fulfillment from life. It's about looking at traditionalists working alongside the Gen Zs and the millennials. And I think this is a trend that we'll see that's going to be here to stay. But so what I'm trying to say, I guess, in this slide is that although we need to do more to prepare young people for the world of work is also doing quite a lot to be able to make sure that it's changing all the time, to be able to meet the needs of a changing workforce. So that question again is about, are we doing enough to prepare young people for a ever-changing world of work? I'm going to start by answering that with a question, really. And I think that's probably going to be, well, it depends. Do we want the quick fix or a longer-term solution? So I'm just going to share a bit more about what I consider to be both of these approaches as we go through the conference theme today, to help you to think about that, to think about all the changes that are going to be happening, and thinking about, well, am I, as a careers professional or a careers leader, with my careers provision, is it more akin to the quick fix, or am I doing as much as I can to be able to support a longer term solution or strategy? So first of all, the quick fix. And here I just want to share with you a recent article that I produced last month for the CDI, for Career Matters. And this is based on some research that we've been involved with for the last couple of years, really. And it's titled, well, when is a skill an essential skill and who gets to decide? And with that research, what I've been really interested in over the last couple of years, as we talk more and more about employability skills, essential skills, and things like that, what I've been able to do is look through quite a lot of research, really, and to produce my own literature review around this area. And what's really interesting is over the last 2 or 3 decades, this really isn't a particularly new initiative. We've looked at things like basic skills before, like key skills, like personal learning and thinking skills as an approach, employability skills, essential skills. So we've tried this quite a few times, but also we're not altogether clear or coherent about, well, which ones are essential skills. We've got the Skills Builder Partnership that has 8 essential skills. We've got the CBI that have got 5 essential skills. And we've got the Skills and Productivity Board that produced a report in 2022 that looks at a different set of 5 essential skills. So they're all slightly different. And obviously, it's brilliant that we've got Rebecca and Ollie to talk to us about green skills later on today that don't even form part of these essential skills. So, how up to date and future proof are essential skills? So I think certainly with the article, it's more about expressing, well, it can get quite convenient, perhaps, when we're talking about a changing world of work, when we're talking about young people not being ready for the world of work, and some reports that come through from that to say, well, they need to grow more essential skills. So for me, I definitely feel there's a place for that, but it's more about, on its own, that's more of a quick fix. So what we need to be looking at is more of a longer term solution. So this particular article looks at 3 themes, really, to be able to kind of develop essential skills. And I think part of that is going to be moving from essential skills and employability as language and more towards career readiness. So what I mean by that is that skills on their own just aren't enough. Young people need career-related knowledge, skills, and attitudes to be able to effectively prepare themselves for transition and subsequent transitions throughout their lives. So it's knowledge, skills, and attitudes. I'm really interested in some work that's going on in Scotland at the moment, which is more around moving away from the language of essential and employability and more towards individual agency for learner and empowerment. So this is about less of trying to find the skills to map across the curriculum and to be able to test busy curriculum leaders with an extra burden to be able to crowbar in some extra kind of skills to be able to present to. And it's more about putting the onus on the actual individual learner and making sure that they recognise what they need to be able to prepare for their transitions. And I think finally, I've got here about paper over the cracks or rebuild the wall. And I think that's about us starting to recognise that is the education system still fit for purpose, or is it time for quite radical change? Arguably bringing career development to the forefront rather than what's often a kind of bolt-on to career development. So have a look at the article. Do contact me if you've got any thoughts of it, kind of thing. I'm posing this as a bit of to recognise that essential skills certainly has a place, but on its own, it can be more of a quick fix. What I'm really interested in, as we're listening to the speakers today and looking at all the exciting and challenging and possibly scary at times changes that we're going to be exposed to over the next 20 or 30 years and say, well, what is the longer term solution? And for me, I think it's about making sure that careers has got adequate time and support on the timetable for careers leaders and for careers guidance. And it's about recognizing that the longer term solution isn't actually a million miles away. You could argue that it's already there. And this particular image that was put together by the Quality and Careers Standard following work it's been doing recently with the Careers and Enterprise Company and Department for Education recognizes that there's got lots of components that put together quite a compelling jigsaw, really, to be able to really make sure that learners get everything they need. And that's having the learner at the center, having the career program that wraps around that, and having an equal attention to the inputs that we can structure our program from in terms of the benchmarks, but also the outcomes that young people can develop as they navigate through their schooling, through the CDI framework. What are the knowledge, skills, and attitudes they're developing across the way?
3 minutes, John. 3 minutes, John.
Thank you, Janet. So we've got things like Compass Plus, the Future Skills Questionnaire, Skills Builder Partnership, self-assessment and peer assessment as a really effective way to be able to monitor. And we've got the Quality and Careers Standard to be able to evidence, externally validate, and continually improve along the way, kind of thing. So I think the system's there. So it's about using it, making sure that we're doing it all together. So making sure that we're pulling all these component parts together and evolving as we navigate through it. So I'm not going to spend any time on this slide because I actually pinched it from my last conference slide in October, but it's recognizing here that we're completely underfunded. You know, we've got all the evidence that suggests that we need over 200 million to do this properly, and we currently have 300 million a year. So there is a challenge there. Coming back to that question, it's about saying, well, how do we prepare learners for an uncertain future with a constantly evolving world of work? And what I would encourage would be strive to go beyond the quick fix and towards best practice within the means you've got available. So I think that's something that I really want you to be able to hang on to as you go through the conference speakers today. To think, well, what can we do? What do we do at the moment? And what can we do more of? So we've got some really exciting speakers today that's going to really help to see what the future's looking like. In a very short while, I'm going to hand you over to Dr. Deirdre Hughes, who's going to talk us through about artificial intelligence and career development. Really looking forward to that. We've got Rebecca Turner and Ollie Hallam that's going to be talking more about green careers and green skills. We've got David Morgan from the CDI that's going to be looking at the skills imperative. And we've got Claire Seeley from Reed Recruitment that's going to be looking more about what this looks like from a recruitment perspective, as well as resources that can support it. And we'll bring all that together with a panel discussion. Finally, just before I hand over to Deirdre, I just wanted to remind you all that we do have these conferences twice a year now. They are always free. They are for careers leaders and for career professionals. We don't have sponsors, so this is more about bringing policy to you and bringing research to you. If you've got any ideas and themes that you want for us to explore next, do let us know. And as always, our focus is on the individual learner. If you like more of what we do kind of leave us a review on Google. Do join our network, which means that you receive half-termly newsletters to give you updates along the way. So I'll just leave that up for a couple of seconds as I introduce our first keynote speaker, which is Dr. Deirdre Hughes from DHH Associates, that's going to be talking more about AI and career development. Huge warm welcome, Deirdre. Thank you ever so much for getting your time to join us today. And over to you.
Thank you, John. And welcome, Deirdre. I will give you a short warning when you're approaching the end of your time as well.
Yeah, that's lovely, Janet. Thank you and good morning, everyone. Can I just begin by congratulating John and the team for the brilliant work that they do. They are a small team, but who do really, really important work and very, very impactful. So I'm delighted to have this opportunity to sort of speak and share some thoughts and ideas. So I shall just get my slides, which are here. Just bear with me one little second. I was saying earlier, it doesn't seem to matter how many times one uses the online facility, but sometimes for some very bizarre reason, things do not show up. So here we go, I'm there. Lovely. So I hope you can all see my slides okay. I'm Deirdre. I'm a qualified and trained careers professional, qualified back in 1986. So that actually makes me very, very ancient. But during my kind of experience as a careers advisor, I have worked with colleagues in Lincolnshire and across the East Midlands. And I have to say that this team is a very, very special team. So delighted to contribute some thoughts and ideas this morning. I've got about 40 minutes or so, and just to say that there will be a chance in the panel session later if you have any questions. John mentioned DMH Associates. It's a research organisation that I set up 16 years ago, following work that I had been involved in at the University of Derby. I'm an associate professor at Warwick University Institute for Employment Research, and I'm going to really focus today on future-proofing career development. John asked me specifically to wear my hat as co-founder of Career Chat UK, which is an AI innovation company that very specifically focuses on career exploration. So I'm going to sort of just give you a little overview. What I'm going to do is just pick up on a couple of points that John mentioned about, what's the purpose of career education? What's the purpose of career guidance? And education as a whole, where are we in 2024? So I want to focus on that for a few minutes. And then I want to just share a couple of AI trends, good and bad, and see what your thoughts are. You'll see here, I use DALL-E prompt and just simply put in, can you create an image in Monet style of a group of humanoids getting to know each other while drinking a cup of coffee at a cafe? Now, who would have thought that that would be something that we could do even 5 years ago, 3 years ago? So we're going to sort of have a look at some of the trends. And I'm going to invite you, I love what John said about sort of thinking about the resources that you have available. And I call it the art of the possible. So my presentation this morning is to introduce, if you like, these trends in AI and connect it to career development. I do want to focus on a careers chatbot technology because that's something that I've been involved in for the last 4 years in creating a chatbot, and I'd like to show it to you in action. And then specifically, I'd like to introduce you to this concept of 5 advantages when it comes to not just chatbot technology, but AI in particular. And we'll round up with implications for your practice. So what's it all about? What's the purpose? Well, for me, careers education, career guidance is all about personal and career development. And I always think it's easy to keep things into 3 or 5 or 7, never more than 7 key messages. So here's my first message around what is it all about? Well, first of all, it's about livelihoods matter. If you're a teacher, careers advisor, someone working in school, you'll know that kids and their families, young people and their families, are worried about their livelihoods. How are they going to make a living? And what career education, career guidance does is support individuals to reach their full potential increase their well-being, find things that you love, their income, and ideally provide recognised prior learning, study and work satisfaction as we work along the continuum of lifelong learning. The second thing is places and spaces for personalised support. So I would invite you to think about where in your locality are the places and spaces for personalised career support, not just for young people, but for teachers, for adults, and more generally. And as society and work changes, John talked a lot about skills and which skills are important. It's about developing confidence as well as skills and competence. And that's what really, really good careers education and career guidance does. I think the point John made about skills is really important because we're going to be looking at green skills, but also I'm going to invite you to think about digital skills. And I'll tell you a little bit about my journey on digital skills and what I have learned. But I'm going to invite you to reflect on your confidence, your digital skills, and your competence when it comes to managing AI. But I want to also emphasize to you that humans in the loop is absolutely essential. And you'll see behind me a little image of a robot. And I really want to advocate and leave you with this thought that technological solutions are great and they will suit many, many people. AI, virtual reality, gaming, chatbots, avatars. But most will want some form of human contact. And I hope that I can leave you with that thought today. But what has become appallingly obvious is that our technology has exceeded our humanity. Albert Einstein, and what a clever man he was, because our technology is now beginning to exceed and accelerate at a point which none of us have ever experienced before. And I want to sort of give you a few examples of that. We're not going to spend any time looking at politics, John. I absolutely agree with you that our career services budgets have been decimated. And I'm also going to suggest that the partnership approach in England also has been eroded, with more and more responsibility for schools without actually having resources sufficient allocated to them. But that's a story for another day. But I think what's most important is just the AI in the UK. You will all know that this is a kind of regular sort of topic. And certainly Number 10 have been trying to position the UK at the forefront of this. Now, Alex Sarafeh from Arthur Terry Learning Partnership in Birmingham has done some brilliant work on skills and focusing on not just digital skills, but what are the skills that are needed. So I think John and Alex could definitely get together along with anyone else who really wants to think about skills in a careers context in more detail. But AI will be the single most transformative technology human kind has invented, Sam Altman. We're at a pivotal moment in history. AI has the potential to revolutionize society in unprecedented ways. Baroness Joanna Shields. I won't read out all of these, but what I will say is, of course, that AI can be a force for good, but perhaps we also have to think about the bad side as well. So here we have Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, and maybe in the chat, you can put into the chat, are you using AI in your work? Bing, Bard, OpenAI, Pi, which is, again, an AI that links with emotional intelligence, and there are lots. But Sam Altman says these AI tools will help us to be more productive. Can't wait to spend less time doing emails. Healthier, AI medical advisors for people who can't afford care. Smarter, students using ChatGPT to learn. And more entertained, AI memes laugh out loud. Excuse me. So we have a changing world of information and guidance. I'll just pause for 1 second and just have a little drink. Apologies for that. So what does your changing world look like when it comes to information, advice and guidance? So AI comes in many different forms. The AI could be in career development linked to ChatGPT, virtual or augmented reality, gaming, gamification, chatbots, AI-driven insights, hybrid services. And just to reiterate the point that John made, this pace of change is just phenomenal.
Hi, I'm
So-
Deirdre Hughes from the UK. My specialist subject is career development for people of all ages. I've worked in the career sector for over 25 years. Note, I started very young, and I'm a professor at a leading UK university.
I wanted to show you that very briefly because this is something that in less than 5 minutes I created last night, where I could actually go on to a website, I could choose an image, I could type in whatever it is I wanted to say. And in less than 5 minutes, you'll see that she looks much more beautiful than I could ever wish to be, but is actually speaking my words. And if I wanted to, I could reverse that and actually put my voice onto that. So I wanted to sort of just help you understand and appreciate the scale, the pace of change that's on our doorstep, as it were. And of course, fake news is something that we all know the Pope didn't have a white puffer jacket. But it is something that as teachers, as educators, we have to begin to sort of think about how can we educate ourselves about what's fake news and what's real, but also how are we going to equip and prepare our students when it comes to career education and career guidance to be able to understand the difference between fake news and, if you like, authentic, real sort of knowledge and information. Please excuse me, I have a little bit of a cold. So again, here is VASA 1. And again, you'll have my slides so you can go in and practice this. But VASA 1 is a site which actually can control images, where it can move things. It can look so lifelike that you would find it very, very difficult to distinguish the difference between a real person and an AI person. So our kind of traditional way of us handshaking, us having that very human-centered approach, I would argue, is being eroded, but it is about transformation, that in a sense, the train has left the station and we have no choice now but to begin to think about how can we do good with the AI that's readily available and out there. So, you know, I love a good handshake. I love the fact that I'm in a room with people. What I've just done recently is completed a 15-country study, and I was hoping it might be published today, but it will be published very shortly on behalf of the Department for Economy in Northern Ireland. And what we've been looking at is targeted and effective all-age careers support. But within this 15-country study, plus the province of New Brunswick in Canada, you can see how career education and career guidance is unfolding. And in particular, in the report, there's a section on AI. So I hope that you'll get a chance to have a really good look at that. So we have to think about balance. We have to think about making sure that it's authentic. We have to think about credentials in a way, making sure that when we use AI, that there are some quality standards attached to that, and that it's safe as well. So very quickly, before I move on to sort of show you AI in action in the form of a chatbot, there are obviously clear concerns about extinction of human careers advisors. Teachers might also say the same. So might also sort of particular specialists. I went to see my AI specialist the other day, and what they were able to do on the AI compared to what he was able to do a year ago was unbelievable. So to some extent, we've got what I call mind-blowing process and progress on AI developments, like that image that took me less than 5 minutes last night. But I think we have to remember 3 things. Robots replacing human jobs is a real threat. And so it's a legitimate concern that some advisors might have about would technology replace them. But human advisors can provide emotional support and that human touch in career guidance that AI really, really struggles with, and I'll show you. And also personal connections that human advisors can provide personalized and authentic career guidance that AI-powered systems struggle to replicate. So if you're one of these people who say, oh, you're a bit of a Luddite, you haven't engaged in it, my really strong recommendation to you is play with these systems, learn about how these systems operate. Remember that AI in many cases has been made freely available to us, like OpenAI, for example. But these are big American companies. And you can be sure that in many cases, they will charge for these services the more that we begin to build them into our lives and actually become more reliant on them. And that's a big concern that I have, really. And I think one of the things that today's conference is inviting you to think about AI for education, AI for work. The technology trigger has been released. And I think this here shows that there will be a peak at some point where we'll use the technology and we'll get a sort of trough of disillusionment. It's not as clever as we think it is. It hallucinates sometimes. But we will reach a slope of enlightenment, and then we'll actually be able to use it in a very, very productive way. So it's all about getting the balance right. So I want to leave you with this thought, not just for chatbot technology, but generally that there are some positives. You know, the positives are that it's scalable. You could use AI, and I'll show you how that can be used, where you can reach far more people any time of the day or night than you can if you're just one careers advisor, one careers leader, trying to cover all sorts of, not just for your students, but for teachers as well, subject teachers who might look to a careers leader to actually give them, if you like, resources to help them make the link. That scalability is really, really an advantage of AI technology in career development. Personalization, you can actually personalize the technology. In a way, I showed you that sort of, if you like, bad example of a video, an AI avatar using my words and pretending to be me. But you can use it to really good effect in that you can personalize services, and it will remember, if you give it permission, to actually pick up where you left off. It can also personalize opportunities by sending a message to a qualified, experienced careers advisor that this is Deirdre, and this is where she's been using the AI technology, and here's what she's looked at, and this is what she'd like to discuss. So it will actually make time savings for individuals. It can give you data-driven insights. So for example, again, I'll show you the data-driven insights, but it can tell you what are the sorts of questions that students are actually asking ChatGPT. What is it that they're asking from a career perspective? It can be cost effective, because what it means is that it can free people up to do the in-depth guidance and the more sort of emotional support that might be needed, and let the careers information and advice be lifted by the technology. And empowerment as well, really, really important. So what I'll do is I'll just stop sharing my slides. I'm just keeping an eye on time here as we go along. And again, if you're somebody quite new to this, have a look at the Career Development Institute guidelines in using AI and chatbots in careers. So I will just stop sharing. I'm going to tell you a little bit about CC. CC stands for Careers Innovation, Careers Intelligence. And I'm going to do a live demo now. I'm going to keep my fingers crossed, you know, that the system hasn't fallen asleep. But what I want to just show you is the art of the possible. And this is, if you like, a real product that is being embedded in universities, in colleges, in schools, in charities, in community organizations, where that whole sense of how do people make a livelihood, where can they get some careers information and advice, in the knowledge that this is not a career guidance chatbot. So I mentioned data-driven insights. John and colleagues, I'm hoping you can see my screen okay. Perhaps just a little nod or a mention that everyone can see my screen okay.
Looks great, Deirdre. Yeah.
Fabulous. So let's have a look at a chatbot in action. And this chatbot isn't a chatbot like something you'd find if you go to the bank or the insurance company. That's really frustrating that it just is a scripted bot. It just will only tell you whatever whoever's typed into it and programmed it. So the background to this is that I became curious in 2018 around why in the career development field, no one, including myself, was looking at artificial intelligence. So I put myself onto an open learning course and I learned all about bias. I learned about the pros and the cons of chatbot technology. And I became convinced that basically what we needed to do was to have a tool that would be in the toolbox of the teacher, of the learner, of the careers advisor, that could empower people to do a little bit of career exploration on their own terms, to be able to search for information. So CC stands for Careers Innovation and Careers Intelligence. And again, you know, you can contact me afterwards if you want to find out a little bit more. But let's have a quick look. So just imagine that you've got your mobile phone, or imagine you're in the classroom and you've got whiteboard or blackboard if you're in a university, or you just want to put it on the front page of your sort of careers offer, then CC can be embedded in all those things. So personalization, I'm going to tell it that I'm called Deirdre, and it's saying, great to talk to you. Everything is secure and confidential. Because this is an all-age careers chatbot, I'm going to focus on being a student. I'm going to say that I am 16. I usually say 21 because it makes me feel better. I always have a spring in my step, but of course I'm not 21, as you will all have guessed. Let's just say that I'm on the road to GCSEs, and let's just say that I'm in Lincoln. So you'll see it's got predictive text, and what we can do then is actually, it's asking me some information just so that it will feed into these data-driven insights. So what we have now at the bottom is we've got what are called career conversation flows. Now, these are conversation flows that we developed with careers advisors who actually deliver services. So when we developed it, we had these careers advisors who basically told us about real life stories, and I practiced myself. So again, we wanted to ensure that we had what I call a curated chatbot. Now, what that is, for anyone who's not aware, is it's a mixture of conversation flows that a careers advisor might have if somebody presented themselves looking for careers information and advice. But what we've done in the last 6 months is we've integrated ChatGPT 4.5 so that actually you can go free flow And you don't have to click on these buttons. You can ask it anything, and I'll show you just a few examples. So what we learned from the very, very start is that teachers said, well, what do I do if somebody doesn't know what they want to do? I've only got a limited amount of time. And so we built in a card sort based on personal attributes from John Holland's theory, well-known theory. And all this does is generate a few ideas for somebody who just has no idea what they might want to do. As a young person said, oh, it's likey or no likey. And in essence, that's what it is. We can just click on that. So imagine that you're on a bus on your way to school, or maybe you're sitting in the city thinking, I'm fed up with my career. I want to see what else I could do. So it'll give us little bites of information, and it'll come up with a few ideas of things that I might like. So perhaps being a photographer, it'll tell me what the tasks are, the qualifications, what the average pay is, and this is based on the very latest information from the Office for National Statistics. But also, CC will show you real life vacancies, so I'll show you how that actually works. We also found that when we talk to schools, and we talk to young people in particular, they said, I'm good at photography, but I just don't really know what it is I want to do. So we've partnered with the BBC Bite Size Careers team. And basically, we've created a conversation flow that's based on if somebody, for example, loves food and nutrition, they can have a look at jobs that use food and nutrition and go immediately to the Bite Size website. And this is a very new addition. I could explore other subjects, or I could go back and just talk about something else. The other thing that we found was that career exploration, remember, I'm not talking about career guidance, because career guidance is where we have this opportunity to speak to a person if we so wish. So career exploration is something that I think we need to have career education really less scary for some people and focus on this sort of exploration. Think about enterprise, think about entrepreneurship, think about that sort of broad, all the things that you brilliant teachers are doing already. But if we wanted to find out about jobs in Lincoln, for example, I could say, well, I'm interested in social work. And here's where careers expertise is important, because we're trying to expand people's horizons and say, well, you might not be able to go straight into social work, but you could be a social work assistant, which is something that I was many years ago. And here you'll see that we can then watch a little video of somebody who is a family social worker telling you about her career. So she wanted to be a trapeze artist and decided she got older that maybe wasn't the best thing for her. But we can listen to her authentic story. We can look at pay. How much do you get paid to be a social worker? And in Lincoln, you'll see it's sort of the average pay is about 35,000. We can look at skills. So what skills would I need? John is so right to be inviting us to really think about skills and think about how, when you're 16, 15, it's hard to know what skills you've got. So we've got to find tools that help people think about that. And these are the skills that employers ask for social work: active listening, speaking, critical thinking, for example. What about the abilities for this job? Well, these are some of the abilities. And what about knowledge? What sort of knowledge would I have to have? Well, if I'm not interested in psychology or therapy and counselling, or even sort of personal service, then maybe it's not for me. And we can change distance. We can say, well, let's have a look at how this compares, say, in Nottingham, if I was willing to travel, etc. But what we can also do, and this is for teachers, you can use this as a pedagogical tool in the classroom. You can say, well, let's look at real life vacancies. And here in a sort of 20-mile radius, we can see here that there are vacancies. So we could actually look at what does a social worker in child protection actually do? And we can actually look at how much they get paid. We can look at, we can look at what the job actually involves. And then we can use career education to link back to help people, motivate people into the reason that you're maybe, looking at a communication skills in PSHE is because communication skills are really, really important. So just to sort of say that I don't want to show this all, and I'm not here to sell CC to you, but to help you understand that in a way where we've used sort of websites before, and we've relied on just, information. When I started, it was occupations books, big thick books that I carried around as a careers advisor. Now we can actually look at a whole range of things. We can apply for jobs. We can look at what if I have to go to an assessment centre? What does that involve? We can look at CVs, and we can look at how would I put together a CV, and have I got a template that I could use? And so the whole idea is to use this to good effect around making it quick and easy. You could watch another video of Chris getting his CV down to 2 pages. You could download a template. And in a way, we're trying to help people to self-help, as well as providing that brief assistant and the more in-depth guidance. So I just now think I've given you an idea of, in principle, how it works. I haven't shown you apprenticeships, but just apprenticeships and T-levels are embedded within CC. Let's just quickly look at courses. Again, we could look at information on what's the difference between a T-level and an A-level. We could look at higher education, and we can look at a whole range of different things. Or we could just sort of see, is there a course maybe that I could find in my area? Let's say I love photography. Let's just see if I can find a course. So there's 6 courses within a 15-mile radius. So it's all about using technology to really, really good effect. Now, I won't go through all of these, but let me just show you the power of large language models now. So CC has a friend called Charlie, and Charlie is ChatGPT. And CC will invite Charlie to basically give you some help around. You might just want to ask and text, write some text in, rather than just, clicking on the buttons I've showed you. So all I need to do is give Charlie an idea of my age. So I am 16 and I'm studying GCSEs, and I have no work experience, but I love animals, let's say. So now I can ask Charlie anything really. Is it possible to combine work with animals and sustainable energy? I've just made that up. Maybe you don't get many students who ask that. Yes, it's possible to combine work with animals and sustainable energy. Pursuing a career in environmental conservation, where you could work on projects that involve animals and sustainable energy practices. And it gives us a few ideas of what these jobs might involve. But the clever part is that it now realizes that I'm trying to discover jobs in particular sectors. So I could go back in and look at discovering jobs and see if it matches my personal attributes, or I could just keep asking it a question. Are there any jobs in Lincoln that I could apply for? Now remember, it's ChatGPT, okay? So we have to remember that in terms of live vacancies, live information, you are not going to get that from ChatGPT. But basically it's saying that in animal care, there's lots of veterinary clinics, animal shelters, pet stores, etc., etc. And so it gives us this option to go back in and search for vacancies if we want. And then the last thing I want to just very, very quickly go back and show you is the speak to a human advisor. Oh, it's gathering some feedback now. It's asking me, what did I think of this? And that can actually feed into the intelligence chatbot. So I want to go back to my slides in a second, but I want to just show you the power of data-driven insights. So we're working with a number of schools and colleges and universities who are using the dashboard, which is anonymized data. So you can't say it was Deirdre Hughes. You can basically see that the people who are using the chatbot here, you get an idea of ethnicity, age. Somerset, I've got a special educational needs conversation flow to help people get into supported employment. But we can actually look at where people are going on the chatbot, where they're searching and the sorts of occupations, who's coming back around, are they unique users? And believe you me, it's astonishing the number of people that actually search in the middle of the night or at the early morning. And we can then look at how many handovers there are to an advisor. And not only that, we can cut the data so we can see, is there a difference between the 20 to 34-year-olds and indeed the 16 to 19-year-olds? And we can also see what the trends are in the last 2 years. So what are the actual occupations? And that takes us back to our local economy, where in the 80s, careers advisors, when they didn't have all this technology, we used to keep manual records when people came into the office for career guidance about the sorts of jobs that they were or occupations they were interested in. And then we fed that back into the further education system, particularly to make sure that their provision was relevant to the needs of individuals. So to some extent, the technology now is able to do that for us. So I think I'm okay for time. I've got probably about another 7 minutes. So please do use the chat facility if there's any sort of questions or things that you want to ask. When I'm sharing my screen, I can't see that, but I will be back for the panel session so we can have a good old conversation then. So let me just finish really, just to say that, you know, this is just one way of harnessing AI digital solutions. We haven't seen much of this globally around using sort of large language models and AI technology in a careers sector, but you'll be able to see from the 15-country study how some countries are using it. But Chris Percy and I, Chris is co-founder of this, we've been actually doing some research, and there's 2 things that we're currently involved in. One is we're looking at, in a university, how staff and students are using AI and what their attitudes are towards it. And I have to say that basically, rightly so, in some cases, people are sort of, I'm not going near that. I don't like it. I don't trust it. But at the other end of the spectrum, we've also got some people who are doing some amazing things to really, really good effect. And we'll be publishing on that later this year. The whole idea of having free chat, I think, is really, really important. And eventually, we'll get to a point where we won't need those, what I call buttons, the conversation flows, because we will be able to use what's called reality augmented generation, where we can actually crawl all over sites and see, you know, what's there and tailor the information. And that's coming, believe you me, very, very quickly. But here's an example of an alert I mentioned to the human advisor. You know, here we are. This is Duke, this is his email, this is his telephone number. Give him permission to share this with you and wants to what would be the best way to get into the film industry, and has looked at volunteering, applying, free chat, personal advice. Saves those, it gives a head start to those careers advisors. So just wanted to also remind you that Odyssey is an observatory for digital technologies for career readiness. And if you're not aware of that, then there's a link there. Please go to it, because there's lots of brilliant examples of AI, including all the things I talked about. Would love to hear from you. Here's how we can chat. And I guess what I want to sort of end with is this sense of the pessimist complains about the wind and the optimist expects it to change, and the realist just adjusts the sails. So the realist in me is that had we not have looked at artificial intelligence, had we not have actually worked with careers professionals and teachers and students, believe you me that from this day forth, you are probably already witnessing a plethora of organizations who will try to sell you gizmos and wonderful AI things that looks fabulous. But I'm going to encourage you to really look beneath the surface and see what really looks very, very shiny sometimes doesn't have the substance beneath it. So look for substance, play, don't be afraid, but be mindful that ethical codes are going to be so important as we progress. And I leave you with the thought that it can be fun to play around with putting your voice to pitch glamorous pictures, or getting an avatar to say something that you've created. But morally, what we've got to do is go back to those three essential fundamentals. Humans in the loop, make sure that we've got places and spaces for people to get good quality careers support, and always connect career education, career guidance to livelihoods, to well-being, and to making sure that individuals can feel fulfilled in the life that they have ahead of them. So keep up the great work, everyone. I do apologize for the little splutter and cough early on, but do keep in touch, and yeah, I'll see you again at 12:50.
Thank you, Deirdre. That was absolutely brilliant. Everybody I'm sure has a lot of food for thought there. I'm probably even older than you are, and find some of this AI quite scary and not sure whether I need to bother. But I do think it is important. And I think the fact that we're moving into working with primary schools as a career profession is also something that is good in terms of the sooner youngsters start on this journey, however they do it, and I think AI will be very strongly involved, the better it is likely to be, and the more they will be able to understand the tools. At the moment, they are still tools, and we need to hold on to that. Somebody's asked about sources of diagrams in your presentation, Deirdre. I imagine on the slides there will be info there, but if not, I'm sure you can provide it. Everybody, and welcome to Rebecca and Ollie, who are taking our next session. You have their bios and some information. I won't take up any more of your time at the moment, but to say over to you folks, and I will let you know if your time's running out. Okay, thank you.
Great, thanks, Janet. Hi, everybody. Can everybody hear me okay? Can you see us all right? It's always the technical hurdle is the first one, so do shout if you've got any issues. So the first thing I'll do is because that thumbs up from Janet, thank you. First thing I'm going to do is just share my screen. Should be able to see. full screen, and hopefully you can still see and hear us. Rebecca, can you give me a thumbs up?
Yeah, that's all good.
Great. Well, yeah, so thanks so much for inviting us along today. Delighted to be here. Always a hard act to follow, Deirdre, but hoping that we can give you guys some really good insight into green skills, green careers, and kind of what the future holds. So my name's Ollie Hallam. I work at the Careers and Enterprise Company, and my role is to support sector and representative bodies, and a big part of that is our work with green and net zero. So delighted to have IEMA with us here today as well to provide some insight into the world of green careers. I'll let Rebecca introduce herself and IEMA in a second as well. So I'll be handing over to her shortly. Wanted to just sort of outline what we're hoping to achieve today. John sort of approached us and asked us to really to sort of highlight effectively, you know, the pervasive and cross-cutting nature of green careers. So we're going to bring that to life for you today. As I said, Rebecca's going to take you through some of the upcoming kind of changes to the labour market that it's going to impact on us. I think within this as well, always important to think about how you can apply this to your particular area, whether that's geographically or socioeconomically, the young people that you work with, putting out those threads, because as we'll see, this whole agenda is pervasive and cross-cutting. So do think about that. Put the agenda at the bottom there, as you can see, the scale of the challenge is big in some way. You know, how this green influence is going to impact on the way we work. What those opportunities are going to look like for young people
Ollie,
as well.
your audio, sorry to interrupt, your audio just kind of was a bit muffled then. I don't know, I think a couple of people saying that on the chat as well. It was fine to start with, and then it just cut out slightly. It was very muffled.
Okay, hopefully you can hear me now. Rebecca, you're the person I can see at the moment, so if you give me a thumbs up. Is that better?
Yeah.
It might have just been signal, so fingers crossed it carries on working. From my time as a teacher, I know that the tech never works, so we'll battle through, but I'm handing over to Rebecca shortly as well. After Rebecca's gone through that, in my role, I'm employer facing, so I'm going to pull out some of the insights that we've got from our FSQ, our Future Skills Questionnaire, how young people are reacting to this, and also how employers are as well. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Rebecca and look forward to any questions at the end as well.
Great, thanks, Ollie. Yes, feel free to pop questions in. We are joining for the question session later, but we can always make note of them and take them for later as well. And thanks for the intro, Ollie. My name's Rebecca. As Ollie said, I work for the Institute of Environmental Management and Assessment. Much easier to say IEMA for short. And I've worked at IEMA for a couple of years. My background, I used to work kind of in higher education. So my background isn't in kind of the environment or sustainability. So it's been a big learning curve over the last couple of years, but really, really great. And my role kind of covers how at IEMA we work with education and kind of the supporting people into a sustainability and environment profession. And I appreciate there's probably a wide kind of range of knowledge on this call today in terms of understanding green jobs, etc. So apologies if I'm repeating things that you already know, but I did think it was important to kind of start by just setting the scene here. And I've popped on the slide, the government is working towards a target of 480,000 green jobs by 2030. And last year, there's a LinkedIn Green Jobs report that comes out every year. And last year that stated that at the current trajectory, the demand for green skills is going to outstrip supply. So we've therefore got a big skills gap in this space. We also work with Hayes at IEMA, and they had a report, I believe, last year that said over a third of employers said they expect the need for sustainability specialists and green skills to increase over the next 12 months. And 97% of those organisations that are hiring sustainability professionals have experienced skills shortages. So there really is a big skills gap that we need to fix. And there's two ways that we can do that. One is by upskilling our current workforce, but the other one is to make sure that our future generations that are going to be entering the workforce do have the green skills. And obviously that's where you all on this call come in and can really support in that space. I did also just want to kind of clarify that I think a lot of the time when we think about green jobs, you might think of the term net zero. This is something that you will see a lot in the media, and there'll be reference to policies around net zero. However, it's actually much broader than just net zero, and we've got challenges in a lot of other areas which all relate into the environment as well. So sustainable development, it's all about ensuring that we are ready for the present, but also prepared for the future, so that we're using and developing resources now in the right way for kind of our future generations. So those individuals that you are working with on a day-to-day basis. And it is all interlinked. Kind of, I've certainly found with my learning journey over the last couple of years, the more you look into this, the more you realize what there is to do and how it all links together. So just to kind of pull out a couple of these. So sustainable resource use, you might have heard a lot of talk about obviously the use of plastics and the problems with microplastics that we have. There's actually 12 million tons of plastic that enters our ocean each year, and to improve this, it's all about kind of making sure we have a circular model. So you may have heard the term circular economy, which is all about kind of looking at how we reuse and recycle rather than kind of increasing waste in landfill or in our oceans as well. There's then low carbon, so this is where we relate to kind of that net zero as well. So reducing our carbon emissions, so greenhouse gases which are generated by human activity. And in the UK, we have a target of net zero by 2050. Respecting and enhancing the natural environment is also really key. So across the UK, there's I can't remember where this stat is from, but on average, species have kind of declined by 19% since 1970, and there's nearly 1 in 6 species that are threatened with extinction in Great Britain, and this is an area where there's big skills gaps as well. For example, with ecology, I know that's an area where we need more skills. And then finally, kind of being socially inclusive. So this is all about helping to ensure equal opportunities to individuals worldwide, so that everyone can kind of achieve their full potential. And one of the core themes or terms you might have heard about is the just transition. So making sure that we transition to this green and sustainable economy in a fair way. So, how do we work with certain regions or communities and ensure kind of decent work, social inclusion as well. So that's kind of just the scene setting, and then just to pull out some of the opportunities. So this actually comes from a report that we did with Deloitte a couple of years ago. It's all still relevant today though, and it kind of pulls out four shifts that we're seeing that relate to green skills. So the first one of those is that we are going to see the expansion of skills in existing roles. So for example, where we see that organizations are hiring a role such as a sustainability manager, we are seeing more and more of those roles being advertised. Organizations are expanding in that space. But also in shift 2, we see that green skills are needed in non-specialist roles. So, marketing as an example, we need people with green skills, green knowledge in that space. If you think about, trying to avoid greenwashing, thinking about how we communicate and try and influence people through kind of messaging in terms of being greener. And then shift 3, so the transition, and this kind of relates as well to that just transition I mentioned. So where workforces or potentially communities are working in a specific sector, such as gas and oil, or maybe even kind of something like plastics production, we will see that a need to kind of transition skills into different sectors for this space. And then shift 4 is all about kind of demand for green skills in new sectors and organizations. So New sectors are continuously emerging. If you think about kind of hydrogen, electric vehicles, carbon capture, all of these things that we weren't looking at however many years ago. So there could be completely new roles that we don't even know that exist, and there'll be kind of demand for those in the future. So essentially, just more and more people need to have a knowledge and understanding of green skills, regardless of the sector or the role that they want to go in. And just to clarify on a definition point, so at IEMA, we actually use a definition from the ONS to talk about green jobs. And this is that it's employment in any activity that contributes to protecting or restoring the environment. So that includes those that mitigate or adapt to climate change as well. So it's any activity relating to protecting or restoring the environment. So that obviously is quite a broad definition, can cover a huge range of those jobs that I've just talked about. So then moving into kind of how this relates to our future generations, and how potentially you can support in this space. So the first kind of block I've got here is all about harnessing interest and enthusiasm. So we know that younger generations are more engaged and knowledgeable about climate change. We've also seen a shift in values that younger generations find important and will potentially look for when they are looking for a career or a job in an organisation. So we need to ensure that we have the information to be able to support them into that, whether that's moving into a specific green job or just being able to take, their green knowledge and passion into a different job family, such as finance, for example. So it's all about understanding the jobs that are out there, raising awareness of that, etc. The other thing I want to highlight in the middle block, and this is really, really important for me to get across and something that I'm really passionate about, is that there is more than one route into a green job or into green skills. So there are roles such as an electrician working on electric vehicle chargers, which require technical or apprenticeship routes, but they are obviously having a huge impact on our green infrastructure up and down the country. Sorry, I can feel my voice going, so I'm just going to cough 1 second. Sorry about that. I feel my voice getting higher and higher as I was going. So there's also kind of an academic route. So if you think about a role such as an ecologist or sustainability manager, they might have come through that academic university route. Also, many people do come into this later in life. I kind of consider myself as a bit of a career changer in this space, and I did kind of training and qualifications on this. There's also roles which require more maths-based skills, such as potentially eco-design engineer, or those that are more hands-on in construction. Roles that require working outside, roles based in offices or laboratories. So there really is, and I can't stress this enough, a huge breadth in terms of the green jobs available out there. And not kind of forgetting that people have the option to set up their own organisations or work for themselves. You might have a freelance heat pump installer, or consultancy is big in this area as well. And then finally, just to kind of reiterate all the points that I've previously made here, but our kind of motto is really that all jobs need to be greener in the future, and green skills will need to appear in kind of job descriptions across the board, from SMEs to large organisations, finance to HR, and also across all job levels, so that entry level, but also right up to senior leadership. We truly believe that everybody needs to have an understanding of this. So it's important to encourage individuals, let them know that they can take passion into anything they want to do. There's different kind of jobs and projects across different areas in the country, depending on whether you're kind of urban, coastal, rural. There will be something for individuals in your area. And then just to finish off on the next slide, I've just pulled out a few examples of current jobs that are out there. And there are a number of kind of different platforms that you can kind of see these jobs on, but you can see the variety that we've got here. We've got ecologist, electric vehicle technician, carbon solutions manager, data analyst. So a sustainability analyst is a role that people are seeing increasing people hire for as well. And then also health, safety and environment, that's quite a common job title as well. So just wanted to give you a flavour for that. And I will give you the link later on for our Green Careers Hub, where you can find a little bit more information on that. And then I will pass back over to Ollie.
Great, thanks, so much, Rebecca. Really useful oversight, and I think I said at the beginning that green careers are pervasive and cross-cutting, and I think the slide there where you said all sectors, all places, and so on. Just highlights that as well. I'll carry on assuming my sound is working. If it stops, Rebecca, I've still got you on screen, so just jump in and let me know if you can monitor the chat. So got a few minutes left where I just wanted to sort of provide a bit of insight from our perspective at the CEC. And I think one of the challenges, one of the challenging opportunities here is that, as we've heard, this is a cross-cutting theme. So sometimes it's difficult to pull out sort of specific threads around green careers specifically. But what I did want to do is I pulled out a few bits and pieces which I think are really relevant. So the first one is relating to how young people are reacting. And this is a stat from our latest Now and Next report that we released earlier in the year. And basically what it shows is that good, high quality careers education has the power to impact people's choices. And I love this, two times more likely to have industry interests, 2 times less likely to choose both careers based on gender and oversubscribed sectors, and 2 times more interest in engineering from female students. And I think what this highlights is that if we continue to do the great work that we are doing, young people are going to be empowered to make the right decisions. They're going to see the need for green careers. If there's a female student, they're not going to worry about the fact that it's an engineering job on a wind farm, and so on. So I think it was just scene setting that we are seeing this really powerful link to good careers guidance and young people choosing those right careers. And for me, there was a sort of an obvious bleed through into green there as well. Having said that, there are some areas where we can pull out some slightly more sort of specific insight. And this was a little bit of analysis that we asked the team to do on our future skills questionnaire. So that's over 100,000 respondents where we've asked young people about their careers perceptions. And apologies that it is a very wordy slide. I put it up there and I thought this is too wordy, but I will take you through it as best I can. And one of the sectors that we are able to link towards green careers, a little bit more kind of accurately, is environment, land, and then also engineering, science and research, where we feel like that overlap between green jobs and that sector is quite strong. So what we saw is that in environment and land industry, there's actually only a very small increase in awareness and sort of desire to join that industry between year 7 and year 11. But in engineering, what we saw is actually there was quite a big jump between year 7 students, where 6% of them thought that was a career that they'd be interested in, to 9% of students in year 11, and likewise science and research. So I think what it shows there is that we do have the influence to change young people's perceptions as they go through their career, and actually maybe there's some work to be doing, maybe the green side of this broader subject as opposed to the net zero. So those careers around sort of environment and land, we can actually sort of support young people to understand more about them, because as Rebecca said, they are a really important part of broader green careers, not just focusing on net zero. So I also wanted to sort of talk a little bit about what we're seeing from employers as well. My role is predominantly working with employers, so wanted to provide a bit of insight in what we're seeing from them. And the way that we do this, and the latest tool, which some of you may have seen but wanted to kind of just highlight for those that haven't, is the employer standards for careers education. So this is a framework that we launched in November. And as you can see there, it's 9 standards that have been split into 3 buckets. And oopsie daisy. And what we use this for is to sort of support employers to improve the way that they engage with education. So we get employers to run through this, and they can understand how they're achieving against those standards. Won't go through them in detail now, but we've got the 3 buckets there, which are about inspiring young people for their best next step. Once they've been inspired, preparing them for the best to be career ready, And then also there's a bucket there around sort of that collaboration and making sure that employers are working together with the system and each other to support young people in the best way they can. So the first insight that we have is that of the 570 odd employers that have now filled out the employer standards, we've actually seen a really high uptake from sectors that are linked to net zero and green. So professional, scientific and technical sectors is the highest sector by respondent. Then it's manufacturing, and then it's construction underneath that as well. So all of those sectors have a really sort of big part to play in reaching net zero and the broader green careers piece. So I think the fact that they're engaging so positively with this perhaps reflects those skills gaps that we mentioned earlier on. So really pleasing to see that. We've got a sort of a full insight briefing as well, where you can sort of see some of the other trends that are coming through our initial findings here. But I wanted to pull out another stat that I think is really relevant and kind of a positive stat to end on. So if I talk you through this slide here. So this slide here shows that of the employers that are doing best against the employer standards, so those are the ones that are scoring exceeding against different employer standards, they're finding that they're actually more likely to have a positive influence on the young people that they're recruiting. So the first box here, where they've achieved exceeding in the blue graph there, they're 98% likely to say that their engagement with education has encouraged young people to take up careers in their sector. The next one here in the middle, where they're achieving standard 6 well, they're 99% likely to say that employers who are engaging has encouraged young people to apply for roles in their business. And then finally, this one here, so where they're exceeding 79% of those employers, the number of young people applying for our apprenticeship roles is increasing as a result of our direct engagement. And I wanted to highlight this because I think it highlights really nicely the positive impact that employer engagement has for these businesses. So I think it's a really powerful tool for you guys to be using when you're engaging with employers to say, look, we know this is working. So it's a kind of incentivization for them to engage with your work. As I said, you can have a look at the full guide, Janet.
You've got about 3 minutes, Ollie.
Perfect. We're moving on to our last slide, so we'll have time for a couple of questions. Thanks, Janet. As I said, there's a full insight briefing there, but what I wanted to do was kind of provide you guys with the flip side of this equation, which is actually how are employers finding this and how likewise are we supporting them. So do think of the employer standards as something that you can forward on to employers and hopefully a little bit of insight there for you as well. So wanted to sort of highlight very quickly the opportunities. Spoke to the education team. Hopefully most of these will be relevant for you guys already. I know David from the CDI is speaking next, so he'll be pleased to see the careers development framework on there as well. Do have a look at our careers leader training platforms. I know that many of you will hopefully have done that already, but there are kind of further follow-on courses that you can do, and as you know, it's fully funded. There's a parental engagement excellence seminar which we ran, which I think is relevant here because it's all about that sort of broader stakeholder piece. So do have a look at that. And then finally, of course, the IEMA Green Careers Hub, which is some great work that IEMA have been doing, pulling together all of this work. So what I'll do is I'll leave it on the QR code for Rebecca there, and just ask if there are any questions. I believe we've probably got two minutes left. I haven't been monitoring the chat, so if those have come through on there, do let us know.
I've responded to a couple of questions in the chat, but there is a question for you, Ollie, about whether the employee engagement scheme works across all hubs. That person's in Kent.
Can we leave that for the panel if possible, because we are actually now at time and I don't want us to start getting delayed, Ollie. Okay, so I'm trying to keep a record of questions and we'll make sure that we try and answer them, but thank you very much for that. And again, David, I'm not going to spend a lot of time introducing you, but you are in charge of the CDI, if that's the right word, and over to you, David.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah.
I
Right.
will remind you when you're running out of time.
That'd be super. Thank you very much. Yeah, I think that pretty much sums it up. I'm not entirely sure I'm in charge of the CDI. I lead the CDI, and lots of different members of the team will probably tell me they're in charge of the CDI, or indeed our members will do. But yeah, thank you very much for the invitation to be here today. Lovely to come and join you and have a conversation around this, because I think it's very timely. It's really important. You've heard about green skills, you've heard about what's going to happen with AI, and there are other things we don't know yet, and the way these things are going to change. The skills landscape, what the workforce is going to look like in the future, are going to be unknown to us, but we know they're going to change. So I'm going to take a kind of a broader step, I think, a little bit, and John asked me to kind of talk a bit of a presentation around the work I did as a commissioner on the Skills Commission inquiry, and how I saw particularly career development as part of that skill system solution, which wraps up a lot of the things we've talked about, and why really this is about, that's the job we need to do. What you've seen today is the job we need to do as the career development profession, and this hopefully gives you a bit of the, well, why is it so important, and what are we doing along with other people to champion career development and make sure it is a key part of the future skill system. So if I can get this to move on. There we go. You've already seen a version of this. So John had one earlier. I think it's a really key point. The industrial revolution seems to be getting ever faster. And if I just get the note I just made earlier, James Bennett put in the chat as a really good example of how this is accelerating. That it took 68 years for airlines to reach 50 million people, and ChatGPT reached 100 million people in 2 months. So the pace is ever changing and ever increasing. There is always development in what workforces need, what the economy needs, what skills are required, but it does feel like the pace has ratcheted up. And one of the issues really is that the pace of change in education and training, skills development, isn't keeping up. It's certainly increased and improved since 50 or 100 years ago, but if you look at the idea that the skills changes are so quick, does the core system do that? So to give you an example, to redevelop GCSEs takes probably about 5 years. There's about a 5-year cycle in terms of improvements in terms of qualifications. We ran our first e-learning course on AI. We advertised at the beginning of March. People signed up at the end of March. By mid-April, we had to rewrite some of the materials because it had already changed. That's the pace of change we're seeing in the reality of what we need to provide. So there's a lot to do to make sure the skill system is working. There are 2 key bits in the points below that I wanted to draw out. The first is that employment has become less and less certain. There is no longer, or there's much less likelihood of anyone having a job for life. And with things like 0 hours contracts, the insecurity of work, there's not necessarily even a job for tomorrow. So people have got to be ready to adapt. Those working need to be able to adapt and develop skills to do that. However, the issue is the bottom point, that once people leave formal education, particularly in the UK, many people don't undertake any significant skills training, or they learn on the job, but they're not really invested in the skills system on an ongoing basis and looking at how do they continually develop and adapt and change and move. And that's particularly true with those with low educational outcomes, because they've often had barriers to learning in the first place, a poor educational experience whilst at school, and a myriad of other reasons. So we have a situation where the need for skills is increasing, and skills development is increasing, but there's some complexities within the system that aren't allowing that to happen. And you can see this with the with what's happening at the moment. So we have pretty much a flat economy. Growth is very slow. We've flirted with a recession, and lots of organisations, lots of industries we talk to are struggling to fill vacancies across a whole range of skills. But unemployment's only at 4.3%. It's not high unemployment. Youth unemployment's running just over 12%. So normally when you've got flat economy, it's because it would drive people out of the workforce. But we don't. We only have 4.3% unemployment, but we have 22% inactive, economically inactive people for, again, a range of reasons. Typically, younger people taking longer to come into the workforce, and older people leaving the workforce earlier. But it goes across a whole range of things. And again, that can be driven, particularly for the older workforce, health issues themselves, caring responsibilities for others, and a range of other issues. And there was a really good comment I saw somewhere, so I'm paraphrasing because I couldn't find it again, but it was normally you would see an economy driving people out of the workforce. What's happening is actually we have a lack of people in the workforce driving a slower economy. So you're seeing this short-term impact, skills impact across multiple industries where they're really, really struggling to get people. But industry is also concerned about the longer term, about are we developing skills we need for the future, for the AI net zero economies and the reskilling we need to do for those, but also just for the general economic needs and the needs of industries that are ongoing. So we really need a clear and comprehensive skill strategy, and that skill strategy needs to be linked to an industrial strategy. An industrial strategy looking at the economy and saying, where are the opportunities going to be? What do we need to invest in as a nation? What skills do we need to do for that? Then comes through the skill strategy, and how do we make sure we deliver those? And we also know from the Skills Commission and other reviews that there are various pain points. So the apprenticeship levy has added some value in some ways, but there are increasingly feedback, particularly from employers and some training providers, that it's not doing quite what it was meant to do. So it's no surprise really that there's quite a lot of focus on the skill system. It's probably higher up the agenda for an election than I ever remember, and lots of organisations doing various work, one of which is the Skills Commission. So I was lucky enough to be invited to be a commissioner on the Skills Commission inquiry into Skills 2030, a world-class skill system. And we need to look at the skill system and think, okay, how do we make this right? So the goal of that commission is to create a vision for reforming the skill system, to build a world-class skill system by the end of the next parliament. And it's there to address both the short-term workforce skill shortages and to prepare the AI and net zero economy and whatever the future holds. So I can't share the results of it at the moment because we're about a week too early. The report will be launched on 15th of May. There's an event at the House of Lords launching that. So I'm looking forward to being able to share that. But what I wanted to share today really is my thinking that I input to it. So obviously, hopefully, some of this is in the report. I would hope that some of it is, but it kind of, a report takes inputs from many, many people. It was 2 roundtables. There was written consultation, multiple conversations. So it's taking it from a range of people, and I think it's going to be in a really good place. But just to kind of share my kind of more specific thinking around career development and the skills system of the future. There's always a lot of focus in any skills review or any skills policy discussion around skills delivery. FE, HE, training providers, always a lot of focus around qualifications. And you've seen that from this government, with the T levels, with much more focus on HTQs, lifelong learning entitlement, and so on. So always a lot of focus around skills delivery, and skills delivery is important. How do you make it more relevant, more flexible, and more dynamic? So it is important. And you'll know that there's always lots of conversation by government about we must make it employer-led, we must make it employer-engaged, because it's important to make sure the skills that are being developed are the skills that will meet the requirements of employers going forward. So both those elements are really important. But the bit I focused on was you have to make sure individuals are engaged with the system. You can build the best system in the world, but the bit that tends to get forgotten or gets least focus is how do we get individuals to engage with a skills system? So they develop their skills, they maintain their skills, they develop new ones, they enhance, they progress, they move on. They maybe change direction to something that's more fulfilling. And there are lots of issues with this. As I said before, we do have a nation where skills engagement is low. It is particularly difficult to get people from low income, insecure income or low education outcomes backgrounds involved in the skills system. And they're the ones who need it most. So it's really, really important. So how do we do that? How do we make sure people want to engage? And my argument has been career development plays an absolutely crucial role in that. We are the enabler of people, individuals engaging with the skills system. We can help people understand what their needs are, what they're trying to achieve, set their goals. We can help them understand what the different pathways are, what the benefit is, why would you take on that debt or do that course or put in that time, because it will build confidence or give them confidence that it is going to lead to something and progression. So there's a really, really critical role that career development plays. And for us to play that role, we certainly need policymakers to think differently about how they think about career development, but also we've got to do a bit more about how we talk about it as well. So what I sometimes see, certainly in policy circles, is this focus on how do we help people show what they've done in, say, other lessons or other training or anything else, so they can move on to the next stage of educational work. How many times do we hear someone say, you know, we're here to help people work out what they want to do after school or after college or after university, or because they're unemployed, what job they want to get into? That's often the way career development is talked about. And career development professionals know it's far more than that. That's often the narrative. But it also needs to be about developing career management skills in their own right, so that people can engage with skill systems throughout their life, and so they can have a positive and lifelong career. And there's key elements to that. I've talked about these before, but it's about career preparation, you know, understanding what's available to you, who you are, what you want. It's about developing those skills. It's about being able to showcase those skills with employability skills. It's about then the ongoing career management skills that you can continue to reflect. And it's about going back over those stages at any point through your career. So there's a really important point, you know, through education, getting people to a really positive place. But we need people to be taking these through adulthood and through their careers. And that's where the career management skills become so important. And, you know, there are tools to help us do that. So, you know, we have the Gatsby benchmarks. They've been a great improvement over the last decade or so. And that tells us some of the key things we need to do. But we also need to focus really on what the outcomes are. And that's where things like the career development framework, and thank you, Ollie, for the name check earlier. Career development framework really provides a great opportunity to look at that. What are young people leaving school or college with? And is that something that's going to support them throughout their life? You know, is it going to enable them to grow through learning throughout their life? Are they going to be able to continually explore the possibilities that's out there and what's available to them? Can they actively manage their career so they can make the most of those opportunities? Can they proactively create opportunities? Can they get a good work-life balance? And as that changes throughout their life, and are they able to sit back and look at the bigger picture? So we're talking about, you know, some of the big changes with AI and with net zero and more broader sustainable jobs. But can they see how that's going to affect their role? Can they see the other things that will come down through, you know, their 40, 50-year working life? So it's really important that people are developing these career management skills, and I think that's where, you know, careers professionals play such a key role. And it's so important to really talk about that this is what we're trying to get young people to leave school and college with. It's not just have they had a careers interview about where they want to go next, have they done work experience, etc., which again in policy language sometimes becomes too much the focus. So there's some key things we're doing. We're working with others and on our own to help shape this. And I think there's some ways also that everyone on the call today can also get engaged. The first is work we've done with the Career Development Policy Group around the Career Guidance Guarantee. And this is about, this is really a policy ask for the UK government. It's mainly focused on England, but some of the key principles work across the UK. A call for every young person and adult in England to have access to lifelong career guidance backed by the Career Guidance Guarantee. So it's saying we need a career strategy. We need a proper career strategy that's published, linked to a skills strategy, linked to an industrial strategy, so you can see what role careers plays. And I would like to see that strategy talk in terms of what I've said earlier. How is careers an enabler, and how are we going to make career development an enabler for the skills we need for the future? Gatsby and the work the CEC and others have done has been fantastic in raising standards within schools and colleges. We need to keep the focus on that and make sure every school is actively engaged in the hub. You know, every school has a trained careers leader and so on. So we need to keep that going so that that standard is there. As I said, youth unemployment is running about 3 times the level of national unemployment. So we've got to keep a challenge on that, looking at how we get young people into work or into training and education if they're not working. Ensure those who graduate from high-level education have positive career outcomes, and that's addressing any kind of specific areas of imbalance there. Really important to support the lifelong career development ongoing. So how do we make sure adults get the support they need? And all of that underpinned by, you know, qualified career development professionals, making sure that we maintain that quality. So the Career Guidance Guarantee has been around for about 2 years. We've just updated it, and there'll be a relaunch of that coming out soon. It's been used to engage both the government and opposition parties, and we're using it to kind of really drive forward, the ask. If you go to the link, you'll get all the slides, but you go to the link where the Career Development Policy Group website is, you'll also see in there the Investing in Careers report, which was done by ISEGS at the University of Derby and Chris Percy. And that's really setting out a costed view of, well, how much would it cost to deliver this? What is currently spent on careers and what we feel should be spent on careers in order to get to this point. But I still think there's work beyond this as well, but this is kind of a realistic kind of first step towards the ideal solution. The other work that's going on is that we're launching, and we've kind of soft launched it, but we're going to do a full launch soon, our Value in Careers campaign. So this is something I've been keen that the CDI does for some time. That we're involved in various pieces of campaigning. We've championed recruitment and retention issues within career development, so people are more aware of that. We've provided stats and research with inputs, loads of consultations. But what we've been lacking is an ongoing campaign that builds momentum. And so the Value in Careers campaign is our first drive at that. And there's 3 key areas we're focusing on. The first is how we show the value of careers by demonstrating how it supports economic growth, how it's underutilized as part of the policy agenda at the moment in various areas. It tends to be compartmentalized as career development. Actually, it should be part of levelling up. It should be part of the economic growth. It should be part of addressing economic inactivity and so on. So our job is to try and raise that profile and build on the work we've already done to do that and work with others to achieve that. The second is about engaging the public, because it's really important that they demand this support, and at the moment not enough people do, partly because they don't know about it. So we know the careers profession is pretty poorly understood by the public. We're doing some research at the moment to look at that in more detail. So what we need to do is start engaging them to show them why they should engage with career development, how they can engage with skills throughout their career, and why it's important to work with someone who's qualified as a professional to do that. And the third element is to support this future economy, to help people get the skills they need to achieve. We also need a workforce that's robust. And at the moment, we know there are challenges in career development with recruitment and retention. So we're really keen to kind of develop the talent pipeline. So this Value in Careers campaign is about showing the value to policymakers about the support we can offer to economic growth, show the value to the public of career development in their life, and show the value of career development as an occupation to work in to those who might be interested. So this is going to be a long-term campaign. It's not something that's the short term. And what we're doing right now is we have a survey of 5,000 members of the general public, asking about their careers, the support they've had, the support they'd like, what impact it's had, what they think of the career development profession. And that will give us some real insight into what people need, so that we can then start tailoring things to address that. It will help us put a bit of a benchmark in, see where are we now versus where we want to get to. And we're looking to make the kind of data available to research organisations in career development so that they can go and analyse it, look at it demographically, regionally, etc. So that's a really, really key piece, and it's a big investment by us in getting data that will really underpin what we're presenting. So that will be used really as the kind of launch pad for the campaign. And what we're doing in combination with that is we've got a research manager in post now, and he's helping pull together the evidence for the benefits we have. So as we've got that data, we've got the benefits for individuals, economy and society, we start making stronger arguments. And finally, we'll use that to turn into resources and communications to engage policymakers, the public, and potential careers professionals. But in all of that, we will be looking to engage current members of the careers profession, and with both the Career Guidance Guarantee and the Value in Careers campaign, there's opportunities for individuals to get engaged, to support, to share, to flag things up, to write to your MP, or just share things within your community. But all of this together is about positioning career development so that it is properly recognised for the value we can add in this changing world. I think everyone on the call, and we've heard from the previous presenters, why it's so important, what impact we can have. Part of our job, but we need everyone in the profession to do it, is shout, and so that people know we are here, we are we are a key part of enabling this, and we can make a change. So that's it. I didn't even get pulled up by Janet for getting close to time.
Excellent, David. I'm just going to say, I was just going to give you your 5-minute warning and you've finished already. So thank you so much for that. I think it's interesting that I'm already beginning to hear things repeated in a way, and I'm looking for key words, and data keeps coming up, links with other people keep coming up, partnership and engagement, as well as investment perhaps, and the speed of things and empowerment. So thank you very much for that, David. I don't think there's any very specific questions for you at the moment, but we look forward to you joining us on the panel at 12:15.
Right, I'll have a look in the chat, and if there is anything, I'll reply.
Yes, I was going to say, I'm trying to keep up with it, but there's a lot going on, and there's also Twitter and whatever, which I'm sure they will be fielding questions to us as well. But thank you very much for that.
Pleasure, thank you.
And I think now, in a way, we're going to have an employer representative, sort of, in that I suppose we've had some of those. But again, Claire Seeley is joining us from Reed Recruitment. Excellent, Claire, you're there and on the ball and working. So with no more ado, again, I will just ask you to keep us moving forward. And again, you're due to finish at 12:05. I'll give you the heads up at about 12 if I don't feel you're winding down. Okay?
Perfect. Thank you very much, Janet. And thank you to everyone for sort of your time today. It's been really, really interesting. I'm just going to take a moment to share a presentation with you and go through some key information. If you can bear with me just one moment while I gain that for you. Perfect. If people could let me know if they can see a presentation.
Yeah, thanks, Claire.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So just to give you a brief introduction as to why I'm here in this room today and why I'm speaking. I'm the Education Partnership here with Reed, and I've been with the company now for 12 years, working specifically with our education clients, schools, and also some experience with colleges and so on. And over the last few years, Reed have been working a lot within this space from the perspective of an employer who not only is a large employer in our own right, we obviously have a large workforce, and we're also a recruiter. So we see what clients and other companies want. But in addition to that, we also have our other side of things, really, which is because we work specifically with education and with schools, we're personally invested in the outcomes for the young people that you're working with, that we're by proxy working with, and so we've done an awful lot in this field. I'm going to sort of go through a little bit of what we've been seeing from employers first, but then look a bit more in detail at some of the resources we can provide to schools and colleges to help you to feel sort of represented from an employer perspective. And I'll start a little bit with some of the labour market. So Reed are a large organisation. Part of us is that we have Reed Learning, and we surveyed a huge number of employers around what they have had as experience when employing school leavers, when employing people that are new to the workforce. And there were a few key themes that we really felt came through from that. And that, together with some of the LMI in that sector and in this world, really we felt painted a bit of a picture over the perspectives of young people. And these are some of the things that were recurring for us when we look at the current climate. So in particular, we were looking at that real need for young people to feel prepared for the workplace, and that differentiation between the relationships and how they work in a school setting, and then actually how that is when they step into work. And I think more than one speaker's already spoken today about the breadth of the working population in modern times, and the different people that are represented in work. We also got a recurring theme around the inequality in opportunity from education transitioning into the workplace. And I know that's come up again a number of times around actually how do we help young people that potentially are disadvantaged or potentially didn't engage well at school in understanding that that is just one facet of their life and how else they can do something really special within their career. Some of the more critical feedback, I think, is probably fair to say that we have had from some employers has been around students' socio-emotional readiness for work. And what that came down to when we sort of had some data around it was potentially students are lacking, or young people were lacking in clarity or the emotional maturity to handle some of the workplace situations that may arise, and actually helping them to have that confidence as they enter the workplace. We all know it, that the cost of living crisis is not going to be helping, particularly from a social mobility perspective. That's something that we see again and again, and of course, you know, as is unfortunately so often the case, we found underprivileged children are seeing the sort of brunt end of that, which is particularly true with marginalised communities, unfortunately. So it really is very important. And then there are two things here that I'm going to move on to in a bit more detail. One is the shortage of certain skills and labour market skills, and then also the youth unemployment rate, which has already been discussed a number of times today. And so it just shows how important all of this is. So at the moment, and I got this data only a couple of weeks ago, there were 376,000 people between 16 and 24 without work or study, which was 10.3%. Now, the whole population unemployment rate is sitting at 4.3%. But actually, when you look at that in terms of young people specifically, that rose to 12.1. And so it really shows that the need to support young people in actually understanding the options available to them and the career that they can have has never been more important. And youth unemployment, as I'm sure you will know, did drop post-COVID. It actually saw some really positive signs. It got down to, I think, 11.3%, and then it shot back up. And that has actually also been coupled with, you know, the overall employment figure, as has been mentioned, with early retirees, particularly post-COVID, people leaving the workplace at a younger age than potentially they could have already done. So I wanted to take a moment though to talk about opportunity, and I'm not going to go into an enormous amount of detail because so many people on this conference have covered it very eloquently. But from my perspective as an employer and from the work that Reed have done, I just wanted to share a few of the things that were recurring themes for us. The first is absolutely helping students to recognise their own ability in terms of technology and tech savviness. Technology and that field, the STEM world, we know is very in demand. Tech in particular, 34% of organisations are reporting a skills shortage. Now, I appreciate technology is a very, very specialist sector for people to learn to train in, and there are so many different routes to that. But it's actually really interesting to see as well that current students may have an aptitude for technology that to them is just common sense because they've grown up with a plugged-in life. They have always had technology that the rest of us have had to learn at some point down the line. So actually their mindset towards tech, they will have many young people have an aptitude for tech that they might not recognise as being a specialist skill. I wanted to talk a bit about first job, and there was a conversation earlier around like the quick fire solution versus the long-term solution. And this, I suppose, is the quickfire solution. On read.co.uk, we currently have over 20,000 job postings that are specifically on our section of the website for people with no experience in that role, suitable for people that have not worked in that position before, plus an additional 3,200 roles that are specially listed as entry level. So the opportunity for people to actually find positions there are positions out there that are being advertised. There's obviously going to be more about that down the line, you know, constantly changing and other opportunities open, but there is opportunity there for young people. We've spoken a huge amount today about green careers, and I think it's such an interesting conversation because as a larger organisation, we are really focused on improving our carbon footprint. We're constantly talking about it. It's something that we're really conscious of as a business. And actually, some of the careers that can come up in green careers may be in areas that people don't necessarily think about. So it's talking about, for example, and this was definitely touched upon earlier as well, but some of the roles that have that crossover to green careers can include things like business analysts, people that are working in project management. There's a lot more projects around how businesses can improve what they're doing. Architecture, you know, we'll all see these green spaces being developed. Engineering's been discussed already, and then the ones that you may already know, you know, people may think about more, the agricultural side, the skills that people may find that they develop to have a career that has that link to green careers may not be what they at first thought it was. So it's helping them to understand that. And then I just thought I'd touch on some of the skills shortages that have really been quite prevalent. And some of them are actually things that people can very, very quickly train within, learn within, start their careers within. The highest being food services are saying that they have a 35.5% shortage. And in terms of the number of open posts, health and social care actually has the highest number of vacancies right now, and it's listed over 200,000 vacancies in that sector. Now, we've obviously spoken about people with social care. It's a really important part of the sector. And actually, it could be something that can be achieved so quickly by young people, because it is a relatively quick route to employment for them. So it could be a really quick opportunity for somebody to go from school into some of those positions at an entry level, but they can be incredibly fulfilling careers. And I say that as the daughter of somebody that's worked in the sector for 40 odd years, so I know it firsthand. But you can have a lot of different roles in that sector. So for the latter part of my session, I just wanted to talk a bit about some of the resources that we have designed that are available to you to utilise within school and for careers leaders to access. And it touches on quite a few of these different things. So I'm going to try something quite brave and try and stop my screen share in a moment to do a live demonstration of something for you. But Reed have got a number of resources, and they are all free of charge. We do not charge for our careers resources for young people. What I will be focusing most of the rest of my time on is Gateway to Work, which is my fault. Careers programme, which we've designed for year 9 and above. It's a digital platform that everyone can access. Reed do annual salary guides across 20 different sectors and industries, and they're seen as industry guides that if you're looking for a role in marketing you might look at, or HR, finance, etc. And we've actually created a version that's suitable for students, so it gives them that understanding of what's going on in different sectors, where might they start their career, but where might it evolve to. In the AI world, we have a couple of things available for you to utilise, which are designed by Reed and use AI technology. The big ones that really our careers leaders have fed back really positive feedback on is Reed have an AI interview question generator. And it creates a tailored list of interview questions across a whole range of different roles. So young people, if they were looking into different sectors, or careers leaders that wanted to help people understand actually how you can prepare for an interview, etc., can use that to help generate example questions. And we know it's being used by employers ahead of running interviews in their specific fields. So it's definitely helpful on there. We also have read.co.uk. We have a whole section on careers advice, lots of free on-demand information. And there's also Reed courses, which may be something that you've sort of touched upon before, but we have thousands of free courses listed online with Reed Learning. So if you've got young people particularly interested in finding out about a particular field or wanting to do just a little bit of study in something, but they don't want to commit, then actually that could be something that they could consider. So just for about 5 minutes, I'm just going to stop my screen share and try to bring the correct one up now so I can do a really brief demo for you all. So you should be able to see a program called Gateway to Work on the screen. If someone could let me know if that's visible, that would be brilliant before I carry on.
Yeah, we can see that, Claire. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. So this is our full careers program. It is free for you to access and it's digital. So we've created this using our background as employers. So in terms of our experience, just to touch upon, we originally started in the world of virtual work experience to help people over COVID get an idea of actually working in an employer when they can't physically go. And we created a week at Reed was our program. And to date, I believe the number of students that have done that program is somewhere between 10 and 15,000 across the United Kingdom, which is way more than we could ever have done in person. So we've definitely seen the benefit, and that taught us that there was a real desire from schools to use more employer-led resources. This is available to anybody that is interested in it. We know we have individual parents that use it with their own children. We know that schools are using it with their cohorts. It's available readily. And it takes students on a bit of a journey, the concept being somewhat of a funnel. So it starts with young people understanding a bit about themselves. So I know a lot of the conversation has been, how do you help young people when they potentially have had a negative experience in school, or potentially they're not that committed to the education system for whatever reason. And this whole part of this whole module, and I'll take you through very, very, very briefly. I won't do everything. There's an absolute heap of resources embedded all the way through, and it helps students understand what they value, what they like, what they enjoy, and actually what they're good at. So, you know, we talk about it from the concept of there's a difference between being good at maths in class and liking working with numbers. So it's thinking about actually what skills do you have and how could that translate to your career, but it's there to help them design their own future a little bit and develop their own curiosity, because there's only so much they can, you know, any individual can do without their buy-in. We take them through positive mindset, what they can learn, and we talk about things like imposter syndrome, which, you know, we hope to help with the socio-emotional side of things. You know, we've all felt it. Everyone I know has been in a room where they think, what am I doing here? And it's helping young people understand it's part of the process. There's a career action plan all the way through. So one document that they complete as they go, that you as the careers leader can look at with them and sort of see what they're identifying about themselves. We've got schools using it self-led, some are using it in dedicated PPA time, or time for careers, form lessons, that type of thing. We've then got digital work experience, and we have 15 different virtual work experiences, and each one is like designed around the concept of a half day. So if you were to have students, for example, not get a physical work experience, or not know where to start, or not have anything they're interested in, then this can be a really good way of like a try before you buy, and they can try lots of different things and they can move forward with things that interest them. So that you can see here, there's lots of different organisations. We've aimed for a mixture of bigger, smaller. We've done, you know, what we can to be diverse in terms of geography, in terms of the people within the programme itself, and to help young people actually see that lots of different things can be represented as really valuable careers. And you can see within each one has videos, and these are authentic. This is the marketing manager, and they have an activity.
5 minutes, Claire, okay?
Thank you, Janet. That's perfect. I think I've borrowed some of David's spare time. Thank you. And then it moves on to choosing your pathway. So this is where students might think a little bit more about actually understanding what they enjoyed and how that can then get them into a particular career. So it encourages self-reflection and research and understanding, okay, so I want to work in the public sector. I'd like to work in leisure and tourism, and actually, how can I do that? What do I need to do? And we do have some schools starting this quite young as well, so that the students, before they choose their GCSEs, perhaps are beginning to think about what the outcome is at the other side. The fourth piece we had is all around upskilling. So this bit I'm really quite proud of, that we've been able to do for everybody, schools, colleges and young people. And it's talking about, actually, you could be in a position where, you know, when you're 16, what do you put on a CV? Where do you start? It's really hard when you don't feel like you have anything to say. So actually it's talking about how can you upskill, so academically, employability skills, and I know there's obviously a whole separate conversation around what they are, but this gives you a bit of an insight as to what employers may consider, and there's an activity behind what's behavioural and what's technical and how you can represent that. And then there's a piece around accessing upskilling opportunities, and everyone who has access to this platform will also have access to 5 free upskilling courses that are embedded, that young people can undertake and anyone can undertake. Leadership and management, project management, and the one I really like is food hygiene and safety. So I spoke before about food services sector. I know my first job was in a pub, and actually it means that young people can get a certified qualification. This has got a you might be able to see it's accredited, and use that on their CV immediately to help them get into work. And then the last bit is the stuff that you would think that Reed would help with. So how do you get ready? How do you find a job online? How do you understand different contracts? You know, what's the difference between a 0 hours contract and a part-time one? How do young people know this stuff? There's an embedded CV template, so you can start all of that preparation. And the last bit, which I'll leave you with, is again coming back to AI. We actually have an embedded AI mock interview with our chairman, James Reed. So it sends through to the students a text with the question, but also a video from James, who will outline the question he would like the young person to answer. They reply, they type it back, and at the end of the interview, AI generates personalised feedback for that student on some of the things they said, maybe what they could do differently and how they can improve. So it's a really good pre-interview interview, but it's using AI technology to help advantage these students. I can share the link. So I've seen someone has shared a link for it, and that is not an incorrect link at all, but I do have one that I can share, which actually when you access it will also give you a curriculum that you can see in school. So I'll share that with you, but just to leave with, it is free of charge. It is up to schools, colleges, it's completely at your discretion how you would use it. We just wanted you to have the resource for your young people. So thank you so much for your time.
You, Claire, just coming back on there, brilliant. I'm aware that lots of people are pointing people in the direction of resources, which is great. Welcome back for this final panel session. I don't know if the 6 people who have spoken to us this morning are able to put their mics and cameras on if they're available, so that we can see who we're talking to. And then we will see if there's some more questions that are coming around. One of the things I just wanted to put to you all is some of the issues that have been raised in the questions and raised during the conference is that although technology is very important, it's also important individuals are ready to engage with their future. And at the moment, we know there's a lot of poverty, food banks are being used, IT divide maybe. Do all schools have equal access to IT? Do all young people have equal access to IT at home, etc. anyway? So is there one thing you think this current government, or one thing you can see that would help that move forward or change that? Anybody willing to go? Claire, go on.
I think it's hard to say from a specific government perspective. It's interesting though that certainly from an employer point of view, there's an awful lot being done to try and improve young people's experiences, to try and get more from the potential workforce. I'm not sure if I'm in any way, shape or form actually getting to the bottom of your question here, because it's quite a tricky one to try and answer holistically. I may not be the best person for this particular question, but yeah, I don't know if that in any way helps you, Janet.
Inclusion, yes. Anybody else? John?
Yeah, again, I might be skirting around the question a bit, kind of thing. But I mean, what I really like by a lot of the speakers and the sessions and the tech we've seen today is looking about how many amazing opportunities that young people can get, kind of thing. You know, those opportunities to do work experience at Reed Recruitment, kind of thing, to have a food hygiene course, kind of thing, or to do things towards that, and to have that accredited at home or via school is phenomenal. Equally with CC the chatbot as well, to be able to get careers information and careers advice that you can access around the clock, kind of thing, you know, if you've got the technology to access as part of a system for, you know, stepping stones for guidance. So I think we're really going down the right lines. It's about, and I think this is more about that social mobility and the quality of access, kind of thing. It's more about making sure that people are connected, and I think that's a bigger issue that we can look at today. But I think it's I think, you know, it's quite exciting potentially what could be possible to enable social mobility.
David, you put your hand up. What would you like to contribute on that one?
Yeah, I think the simple answer is that there's lots of things that contributed to this being a problem. Therefore, there's going to be lots of things that need doing to solve the problem. So I don't think there is one thing, but I think it comes down to who you're trying to help and how you're trying to help them. And I think, you know, if you're looking at those who are kind of disenfranchised or struggling to engage with, you know, education and then training and then employment, I think the one thing you can do is go and start looking at actually what are their barriers. If there's nothing else they did, if they didn't solve anything, they just said, well, what actually are the barriers? Is it that they're, you know, you've got kids who aren't eating and therefore they're struggling to concentrate at school? Or is it that they don't have role models or a network where they can see people? So how do we fix those? Because without understanding that, you can't start putting policy in place to do it. There's no point having kind of policies that look good but aren't actually grounded in the things that are you know, people are struggling with. And I'm not saying that about this government or any other, but it's just, you know, you've got to start with what's preventing people from engaging and moving on, and then how do we address that?
Deirdre.
Well, I'll be a bit controversial, stick my neck out here and say, I don't think there's anything this government is going to do to improve careers. It's had a long time to do that, and it's done some good things, you know, Gatsby benchmarks, career leaders in every school, but it hasn't given school any resources to do it. And it's a patchwork provision that we've got, and that we could even just do, if we had more time, which we haven't, do a straw poll of careers leaders here. How many of them are sort of one person with very little sort of support wrapped around? So I think let's set our sights on the new government that comes forward, whether it's a hung sort of parliament or, you know, whether it's the Labour Party or whatever. And I would say two things. Accepting everything about poverty and the scale of deprivation that families are experiencing. So number one, places and spaces. Go back, look at local places, see where are the places where people can go for career support, and bring together health, careers, and those sort of wraparound services at a local level. Share resources, share expertise, use digital where it works, and where it doesn't work, then jolly well make sure that there's human support in the loop. And I think the career development field have a tremendous opportunity to also ask themselves, what happens to those kids when they're not in schools, going through the Gatsby benchmarks and all the, what happens to those kids that drop out? What happens to the apprenticeships that drop out? What about technical education? You thought you'd love it, you hate it, you drop out. So I think there's a great opportunity in the next couple of years to really reframe and begin to go back to those local places and spaces. And we can see local authorities and combined authorities now inheriting some of what was in the laps. And I think for them, the big challenge is going to be money. So yeah, scarce resources. So let's be really creative now. And let's make sure that those teachers that are working themselves really, really hard, doing fantastic careers work, let's kind of keep finding ways that we can support them in that regard.
I think, again, that's the importance of CDI and conferences like this, where we come together and we don't all invent the wheel on our own, that we use the wheels, if you like, that are all out there as best we can, so that we're working smarter, not necessarily harder. Claire?
Yeah, sorry, some of what was said just gave me another thought on this subject of thinking about, you know, from Reed's perspective, I've come to you today to talk about what we can do for the schools and the students, but actually there's another side to the conversation, which is actually how do we help employers understand the ways in which they can help their workplace be accessible by young people. So whether it be in the interview process, the application process, the hiring and onboarding, and actually that sort of consciousness of the barriers some of your young people might actually have in applying to those roles. So we will deliver conferences and webinars and seminars, etc., to our corporate clients to say, well, actually, have you considered that a first stage face-to-face interview might actually be a massive barrier for a young person who can't afford a train fare across the country to get to you, and so on and so forth, and actually considering when we're, you know, through the work that you will all be doing, I'm sure, with employers locally to talk about your students, the consideration of actually what your young people need to access that opportunity. And that's something we're constantly doing. But yeah, that was a thought I'd had, and not specifically linked to the tech, but the accessibility of the opportunity.
Rebecca, do you want to contribute anything?
I'm probably not the best person to speak on this, in all honesty, which is why I've kept a bit quiet. Obviously, my focus is around kind of green. We don't do a huge amount at the moment in terms of engaging with schools and colleges. It's kind of in our pipeline, hopefully for the future, but at the moment our engagement is more around the higher education space. So I'm probably not the best person to chime in on this, if that's all right.
That's fine. David, you put your hand up again.
Yeah, I just thought one thing to add is, yeah, in terms of our role as careers practitioners, well, your role as careers practitioners, I can't say I am, and just taking the long-term view, things can feel pretty bad at the moment, although employment-wise things aren't so bad, but they can feel pretty tough for many people. But governments change, economies go through cycles, things go in and out of fashion. There's far more focus on skills at the moment than there has been, and within that, there's far more focus on careers than I've seen in the last 3 years or so, and probably has been in the last decade or so. So I think it's important to recognise the issues and the challenges that young people are facing, but try and keep a positive view with them, that the skills you're learning, the education, the knowledge you're getting, the career management skills, the lifelong learning skills will support you through your career, and you'll have ups and downs. But it's still important to keep that focus on those and to keep learning the same kind of core principles, and that flexibility and that ability to look forward and reflect on your career and keep looking at it will be hugely beneficial, no matter what the economy is or the government is or how much is invested in different areas. So that's the only thing I'd say is like, don't let all the bad news get to you. Our job is to recognize the real barriers, but translate it into positive action for young people.
The other thing
I would just, sorry, I was trying to see where to raise my hand, but I can't see it. I never use Zoom. But just kind of following on from what David said, I would say that there is huge opportunity in the green sector as well in terms of these roles. And actually, one of the things we're doing at IEMA is trying to, it's a really undiverse profession at the moment. There's kind of reports from a few years ago where sustainability is like the second least diverse profession in the UK. So there's a huge amount of work being done to try and solve that, which includes things like role models and perceptions. So I appreciate that that's slightly off the side of this topic, but I do think there are huge opportunities, and it is something that a lot of organisations are really trying to drive in terms of green.
There was a question related to your resource, perhaps mainly Deirdre, but again, I think it could relate to anybody's resource, and I also think it's partly age related, though that's a bit prejudiced of me. But again, will your, what do they call them? You were typing in your questions and you get your answers back. How soon do you think it might be before it's all done by just talking to the machine? Because even that, typing things in can be a barrier. And have you considered working with the younger age groups, which might require it to be more pictorial? Again, I'm very pleased, and John may have something more to say on this, that we now have Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2 of the CDI learning framework. Now, I know I'm speaking mainly to a secondary education audience, but you might find that sometimes when they come in at Year 7, they've already got great ideas about their future because it's begun early. So Deirdre, any comments from anybody else?
Oh, no one's going to comment.
You're mute at the moment, Deirdre.
Yeah.
John, do you want to say something?
Sorry, folks. I just was struggling to get the mute. Just two things. Sue, Janet, one of the most important things was CC the chatbot, and I have to say thank you to Exeter University Innovation and Impact Lab, in that I wanted to make sure that anyone who was visually partially sighted or blind could actually hear the bot. It could actually speak to them. So we are not far off already. We're going to get, these, and this is one of the good things about AI. We are going to get, for example, someone who maybe has had an injury and it's affected their voice, and that's affected their confidence. You can use AI to modify your voice. And if you had a recording of what your voice was earlier, all you need is less than 1 minute to put that in, and it will give you back your voice. It's mind-blowing. So the thing is, yes, definitely, we are going to see more of that. And the pace of change will just move, so quickly. But let's, again, use it as a positive force that we can actually be much more inclusive of individuals who in the past would have got left behind. So I think that's a positive thing, and we could create something tomorrow if we really wanted to, where we've got the person actually speaking. So it's here, it's now, but as a career development field, we just have to keep moving forward collectively. Someone asked in the chat, is it just playing? Is there any training? Well, I know the CDI have produced a training module on AI, so commend that to you. And I would have to also say that Career Chat UK, we've got career webinars on AI. One of them is coming up on the 16th, so I'll send that to you. But as a way of giving something back, if anyone wants to listen to the recordings of our AI series, I will make them freely available. So just let me know, and that can be something to give back to everyone if you want to hear about what's happening with AI through our series.
Thank you. John, anything about primary that you perhaps wanted to add?
Yeah, absolutely. Not much to add on tech, I'm afraid, but I'm really pleased to hear that that's already waiting in the wings, which is fantastic. But I think we've heard quite a lot about knowledge, skills, and attitudes, and about helping people with empowerment and agency all the way through, their journey through their education. And I'm absolutely delighted that we've got the vehicle there with the CDI framework, and it's from age 4 to 19, the same language, the same 6 areas, differentiated kind of outcomes and aims within that for kind of our early years and foundation through key stage 1 to key stage 5 kind of thing. So I think that's really something to be celebrated, but it's probably under-recognised, within the current landscape of career development. But I think if that's something that can be celebrated all the way through education, from primary all the way through to post-16, these are the 6 areas that will really help to be able to learn the confidence, find out more about self, manage career, explore possibilities, see the big picture, balance work and life kind of thing. So these are the lifelong career competencies that we need people to be able to, find out early and kind of like challenge whilst their values are being formed kind of thing, and carry with them all the way through. And I guess in a way, we've been preparing people for an uncertain future for decades already, really, with the other industrial kind of revolutions. And in many ways, we might have thought we would have been replaced by technology a long time ago. Deirdre mentioned about the occupations handbook. I remember that as a young careers advisor, we're thinking, well, what value have I possibly got when there's this book here that knows far more than I can ever even claim to? Fast forward with the internet and various different search tools and things. And I think it is very much that. It's about helping people to be able to use tools, to be able to develop their own empowerment towards kind of knowledge, skills, and attitudes, navigate their way, and be there to be able to appraise their career management cycle along the way. So, and it starts at primary, Janet, and it's brilliant that we've got that. I know you're equally as passionate as I am about that.
Ollie, you wanted to come in here maybe from the CEC. Please comment. We're glad to see.
Yeah, hi, and apologies for the late joining. My internet finally did give up the ghost, so I hope you can hear me okay now. It was just a small build on everything that's said. Of course, we know that young people are sort of starting to sort of stereotype and make decisions in primary, so it's really important to start that exploratory stage. But probably worth flagging, as John mentioned there, it's great that we're starting to see these all through frameworks. Skills Builder is another one where you can really take that build all the way through. And I've just put into the chat the Start Small, Dream Big pilot that the Careers and Enterprise Company have been running. It is only pilot at this stage, but I think it's recognition that it is such an important part of that holistic system. So just wanted to put that in for you guys.
Okay, Claire.
Hi. Yes, just a couple of things on the accessibility that you asked around, Janet. So to mention, all of the videos that we have in the programme are subtitled. So there is audio and subtitle as well for young people, because we appreciate, apart from anything else, they might be in a busy classroom. In terms of ability to sort of talk to the system, that I don't think is something we have at the moment, but I will definitely take it forward. And on top of the primary side, I did just want to touch as well on the SEN side of things. So we've seen an enormous uptake of clients that like to use this programme and schools that like to use the programme who potentially are alternative provisions or mainstream schools with a very broad range of SEND students within their care, as well as those that are mainstream secondary schools or colleges. And I think it's because some of those settings find it particularly challenging to get employer engagement in the feedback that we've had around that. So I thought I'd mention not just the primary school side, but the SEND side for that accessibility sort of and social mobility side.
Absolutely, that's a very valid point. I mean, I know we have mentioned SEND. We do work with SEND schools ourselves, and you know, SEND schools often try very, very hard. And some of the sectors, perhaps, that again people have earlier said there are quite a lot of vacancies in, like the food and drink sector, you know, the hospitality sector and the care sector. If they could perhaps be a bit more inclusive sometimes, then they may have a broader pool of people to pull from. I could anecdotally talk about a college in Lincoln that has a sort of adult special learning place, and they have a little cafe, and I've seen the work they've done to develop the skills of young people there, who I think now have gone on to more mainstream employment, having developed them in a sort of specialist setting. So that's very good. I don't know that we have many more questions at the moment. I mean, we've obviously been able to hear from a range of resources, a range of sectors. And, you know, there is so much good work being done in careers by the people who are attending here, and often under quite a lot of pressure. I mean, as I say, we've talked about needing the data to back things up, about working in partnership with people, both internally within our own organisations, but also across career hubs, nationally, internationally. I was interested to know, and unless it was a wind-up, which it might have been, and I don't know if they're still with us, we had somebody from Malmo in Sweden with us at the beginning. And of course, that's where the Eurovision Song Contest is this weekend. That's why I wondered vaguely if it was a wind-up. But maybe we've got so many nationalities. Well, we've got 4 or 5. We have people from Channel Islands, from Northern Ireland. I could go through a whole range of the counties that people introduced themselves at the beginning. So, you know, thank you for all the work you do. And remember, there are other people out there. And David, who, as I perhaps inappropriately said, was in charge of the CDI, David is its figurehead and obviously is representing career professionals, which is what we probably all are. And if we can stick together within something like the CDI as an organisation and all be members and hopefully be active members, then, you know, we become stronger together. I'm an ex-trade unionist. I now run my own business, but I'm all in favour of the collective. But again, something that Deirdre mentioned about being aware of the need for ethical standards around these tools we use, and helping young people and the world out there to ensure that they are ideally used for the common good rather than for individuals. And I am delighted that I was able to volunteer myself, and I will be joining the CDI's Ethics and Professional Standards Committee. So I'm sure over the next 2 or 3 years, there may well be some questions around ILI, and I'll have to keep up to date. So, and I know STEM, it was interesting actually, there's been some comments about a lot of emphasis on STEM, and I think you showed some stats. I can't remember who it was now, so many stats out there, but STEM is obviously something that a lot of emphasis is being put on, and year 11 students are grasping that. But somebody also commented about, you know, where are the humanities jobs and so on. But we must always remember the creative side of everything, mustn't we? which is through the arts and the humanities. And again, thinking about green, I've been a bit of a dinosaur in that I still like to read a good book, but I was just wondering whether I ought, and I mean, I have it in my hands, but I'm wondering if I need to go and read all my books online to help save a few more trees and save the world, but who knows. Do we have any more questions from the audience?
Can I just say on that point, Janet, around partnership, because I think, you know, it's a really interesting part, really, because, you know, unfortunately, certainly, you know, we have got so many colleagues hopefully join us from across the world, and you know, this is only a fraction of who we've got that actually, you know, registered for the conference. So because we know that people are very busy, they'll access the recording at leisure. We had over 350 people registered for the conference, which was brilliant. So, you know, it's brilliant that that's there. I mean, I'm reflecting a bit more from the partnership aspects. Together it is stronger. You know, when it's joined together, it's so much clearer. And obviously we are a bit lacking at the moment with a out-of-date careers strategy, but it sounds like that's probably the case across certainly most of the former home nations kind of thing too. So it's about thinking, well, how do we kind of lobby for that? You know, we've got the work of the Career Development Policy Group, which again is partnership there to be able to collaborate for stronger. And it's about utilising your own networks, really. So we've got your local careers hubs, you've got your local multi-academy trusts, you've got networks that you might belong to. Obviously, we've got our own here at Complete Careers. So I think it's about tapping into that so that you can hear some fantastic, innovative kind of solutions, such as two that we've heard today with Seeley and also with the Read platform. So, you know, I think it's just trying to connect as best together you can do yourself, whilst the national picture is sorting itself out.
That's it. Though David also commented, you know, there are underlying issues upon which we have no control, maybe. And again, I want us to finish on a positive note if we can. And I'm not very good at quotations. I probably misquote, and people may not approve of who it was, but I think it was Chairman Mao at one point who said, every journey begins with a single step. So that, you know, if you can just do one thing, then you're going in the right direction. Then you can maybe do the second one, and the destination will get nearer and nearer. I mean, online meetings and technology was something that I got thrown into the deep end when I came back from a holiday to deliver something that normally would have been delivered face to face, but due to the pandemic couldn't be. Well, 3-4 years on, it's been a very good way to change the way we work and help in many ways. Deirdre, did you want to say something else?
Only briefly, just on a positive note, John's absolutely right. England's career strategy is way out of date. I think the Scots might sort of, if there's anyone from Scotland here, they've had a big careers review, and they've actually put in a careers collaborative that's trying to, at a national level, join everywhere up. All I wanted to say on a positive note really is that, you know, the power of people should never be underestimated, which we all know. So in the careers community now, there is a great opportunity to come together and to really celebrate everything that's good about career guidance and career education. And where we can, to share free resources, which is something DMH Associates has done throughout the pandemic and beyond. But I'm more than happy, anyone who's interested in any of the things I've said, to sort of collaborate. If we can gain cost efficiencies, brilliant, because that helps everybody whose budgets are really squeezed. So just wanted to end on that note of, if every one of us just gave a little something, then actually in our local areas, we would be so much stronger, and nationally we could be so much stronger as well. And thank you for the fabulous conference. Janet came back in the middle of the night last night. So Janet, you're looking well on a thank you very much.
I'm going to go and have an afternoon nap. I got caught by the IT failures at one of Britain's wonderful airports. I have to stay 4 hours at Stansted, waiting to go through a narrow funnel to check I could enter. Okay, anybody else? Well, we have finished this earlier, but we always pride ourselves on not keeping you later than we need to. Thank you to everybody. We won't close the meeting yet in case people are communicating with each other through the chat, but you know, go and have your lunch or whatever. Do keep in touch. We thank again all the speakers and all the positivity. Together we will get better and stronger, and let's hope that AI is our friend and makes our lives easier and our work more effective, and that we help with all the things that are required to save the world over the next few years. I might not be around to see it, but I'm sure some of you will. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Janet, and thank you for excellent timekeeping and hosting skills again. A final thanks to me will be to extend from that, obviously, for all of you to have given up your time for coming today, and also to Ellen in the office that's put a lot of work together in the conference pack, who's training to be a career guidance professional at the moment, and you know, has been able to send everything out and make sure that everything's been running together smoothly. So huge thank you, Ellen. And yeah, so do stay on as long as you want to, but do take it as an opportunity for an early lunch break. You will be getting a recording sent to you, a link sent to you with the recordings on the website when it's all available. But you might be able to get 13 minutes in the sunshine perhaps before your next prayer engagement. So yes, so all the best, and thank you ever so much for your continued support.